Hailing back from the days of Medarot 2, it is the successor to the original crayfish type, back in action with a new model and a fresh coat of paint. It is RAY01 Hoppingstar. With a kit of triple beam, wheeled legs, and the leg ability of continuous P, which buffs his cooling stat for every turn an action is completed, stacking 5 times. Now, being completely honest, Hoppingstar was a very openly welcome addition when we saw that he was officially making a grand return, especially given the fact that this is the first time anyone has seen a hint of Hoppingstar in at least 26 years from his original appearance, or his second appearance I should say, in Medarot R in 1999. And it is nice to see, however, that they did rehash his original kit when choosing to bring him back into the limelight. However, unfortunately for the realm of Medarot S, that might hurt his case more than actually help him. Beam on all 3 skills is an optic attribute skill, which gets a ×2 damage bonus at a 30% Metaforce charge, and a ×3 damage bonus at 100% charge. So while Hoppingstar definitely can pack a lot higher power than the original Rollstar can at triple laser, the big drawback to Beam is the fact that, as you see, it's not packing any added effects. No scatter, no AoE, no piercing, which means at the very best, it's going to be very good for spot nuking, or breaking single parts one at a time if you can afford to do so. And even with the base power that he's packing, if you're with all things that are able to afford him that, there is a good chance he could potentially pull it off. Looking at his stats though, like I said, he is packing some fairly solid power. A base power of 1746 for the head, just shy of 1300 for the right arm, and just over 1500 for the left. Again, doubling and tripling that means he definitely has the damage potential, as long as it's something just extremely bulky and not something that he can carry on with Pierce. However, given that he also has very good success stats, his lowest being in the high 900s, means that it's going to be very difficult for enemies to dodge or graze his incoming attacks. And with heating stats that are fairly good though for what he's bringing, the head being in the high 700s, the right arm being in low 800s to high 600s, and even his left arm being at high 500s in both of them, he definitely is able to kind of fire these off very easily and run back to line and fire off another one fairly easily with no real outside assistance. Wheeled legs, carrying on much like the original model of Rollstar, means he's going to be fairly solid on any terrain that is made of road or asphalt or concrete of any kind, barring of course Cyber, which everyone gets at S rank. But his stats are actually pretty solid too, with a base mobility of 862, kind of on the lower end of where wheeled legs tend to want to sit, but still fairly solid for what he brings to the table. An evade of 858 isn't terrible, but it's also okay-ish, I suppose, as this does mean that he'll kind of dodge or graze whenever he feels like it. A melee resist to 704 is definitely not great though, as this does mean that he's going to be taking considerably more damage from anything that gets in his personal space. But a shoot resist of 1410 does mean that he's able to hold his own just a little bit better when exchanging enemy artillery fire with the enemy that's far away from him. In the armor, he's actually not too shabby either in most departments. The head armor at just over 3,500 at 3,509, arms at just shy of 3,300 apiece, and legs at just barely 3,900. He's not too bad in the HP department, and as long as it's not anything that gets in his face as a melee attack, he should be able to tank it fairly well. And when it comes to speed, he actually does tie it just a little bit better than most others because of the leg ability of continuous P, which means for the first 5 turns of battle, he is progressively making himself just a little bit faster every time, which makes it a whole lot easier for him to recharge and fire again before the enemy has a chance to cut him short. All this being said though, as a pure set, I unfortunately have to rate Hoppingstar. As much as it's great to see him back in action again after 26 years, I unfortunately have to rate him as a pure set score at a 4 out of 10. While his stats are definitely there for what he brings to the table, and what he can definitely do what he's designed to do with enough time afforded to him, he needs a lot of help from the outside to do it, and even then, he can only do so much. The fact that he's triple beam, which is a CG reliant attack with no CG sustained in his kit whatsoever, already means that he's going to have to spend some turns charging, or somebody has to make it easier for him to gain charge. And the fact that he doesn't have piercing on any of his attacks means that he's definitely not going to be the team DPS if he's put on any team he's put on. Rather, he'd be more a sub DPS, I guess you could call it, or a follow-up DPS more than an actual main one. And being wheeled-legged means he's going to be struggling on a lot of terrains, like I said, that are not made of road, concrete, or asphalt, minus at cyber, which everyone gets. So, unfortunately, even if triple beam is his original kit, in the realm of Medarot S, that does honestly end up hurting him far more than it does benefiting him than it does the original Rollstar. As mixed parts, I can rate him just a little bit higher at a 4.5 out of 10, given that even though Beam is unfortunately kind of useless unless you pack something like Scope, which does grant the ability of piercing to an attack once through an ally giving it to him, honestly, the best part on Hoppingstar might honestly just be his legs. He's got fairly good numbers for anything that needs a high-speed wheeled-legged, especially as a welfare model that he is, and the one heavy slot that he has, even if he's not using it, is still pretty solid. But ultimately, Hoppingstar ends up being a model that's nice to have back, but more gonna make his place as a library model more than he is a dedicated model that you'll see people use on the regular.